in which our protagonists, Anna and Levine, finally meet, and in which one of their tales comes to an end. Chapter 28. The weather was clear. All morning there had been a fine, light drizzle, but now it had cleared up. The iron roofs, the flagstones of the pavements, the cobbles of the roadway, the wheels and leather, copper and tin of the carriages, everything glistened brightly in the May sun. It was 3 o'clock and the liveliest time in the streets. Sitting in the corner of the comfortable carriage, barely rocking on its resilient springs to the quick pace of the greys, again going over the events of the last few days under the incessant clatter of the wheels and the quickly changing impressions of the open air, Anna saw her situation quite differently from the way it had seemed to her at home. Now the thought of death no longer seemed to her so terrible and dear, and death itself no longer appeared inevitable. Now she reproached herself for stooping to such humiliation. I begged him to forgive me. I submitted to him. I acknowledged myself guilty. Why? Can't I live without him? And not answering the question of how she would live without him, she began reading the signboards. Office and warehouse. Dentist. Yes, I'll tell Dolly everything. She doesn't like Vronsky. It will be shameful, painful, but I'll tell her everything. She loves me, and I'll follow her advice. I won't submit to him. I won't allow him to teach me. Filipov, baker. They say he also sells his dough in Petersburg. Moscow water is so good. The Matishi springs and the pancakes. And she remembered how long, long ago, when she was just 17 years old, she had gone with her aunt to the Trinity Monastery. One still went by carriage. Was that really me with the red hands? How much of what then seemed so wonderful and unattainable has become insignificant, and what there was then is now forever unattainable. Would I have believed then that I could come to such humiliation? How proud and pleased he'll be when he gets my note. But I'll prove to him how bad that paint smells. Why are they always painting and building? Fashions and attire, she read. A man bowed to her. It was Anushka's husband. Our parasites, she remembered Vronsky saying. Ours? Why ours? The terrible thing is that it's impossible to tear the past up by the roots, impossible to tear it out, but possible to hide the memory of it, and I will hide it. Here she remembered her past with Alexey Alexandrovitch, and how she had wiped him from her memory. Dolly will think I'm leaving a second husband, and so I'm probably in the wrong. As if I want to be right. I can't be, she said, and wanted to cry. But she at once began thinking that those two young girls could be smiling at. Love, probably. I don't know how joyless it is, how low. A boulevard and children. 3 boys running, playing horses. Seryosha. And I'll lose everything, and not get him back. Yes, I'll lose everything if he doesn't come back. Maybe he was late for the train and is back by now. Again you want humiliation, she said to herself. No, I'll go to Dolly and tell her straight out. I'm unhappy. I deserve it. I'm to blame, but even so, I'm unhappy. Help me. These horses, this carriage, how loathsome I am to myself in this carriage. It's all his, but I won't see them any more. Thinking of the words she was going to say to Dolly, and deliberately chafing her own heart, Anna went up the steps. "Is anyone here?" she asked in the front hall. "Katerina Alexandrovna Levin," the footman replied. Kitty! The same Kitty that Vronsky was in love with, thought Anna. The one he remembered with love. He regrets not having married her. And me he remembers with hatred, and he regrets having become intimate with me. When Anna arrived, the two sisters were having a consultation about nursing. Dolly came out alone to meet her guest, who had just interrupted their conversation. "You haven't left yet? I wanted to come and see you myself," she said. "I received a letter from Stiva today." "We also received a telegram," Anna replied, looking past her for Kitty. "He writes that he can't understand precisely what Alexey Alexandrovich wants, but that he won't leave without an answer." "I thought there was someone with you. May I read the letter?" "Yes, it's Kitty," Dolly said, embarrassed. "She stayed in the nursery. She's been very ill." "I heard. May I read the letter?" "I'll bring it at once, but he doesn't refuse. On the contrary, Stiva hopes," said Dolly, pausing in the doorway. "I have no hope and don't even wish it," said Anna. "What is it?" thought Anna, left alone. "Does Kitty consider it humiliating to meet me? Maybe she's right. But it's not for her, who was once in love with Vronsky. It's not for her to show it to me, even if it's true. I know that not a single decent woman can receive me in my position. I know that from the first moment I sacrificed everything to him, and this is the reward. Oh, how I hate him! And why did I come here? It's still worse, still harder." She heard the voices of the sisters talking in the other room. "And what shall I say to Dolly now? Shall I comfort Kitty with my unhappiness? Submit to her patronizing? No, and Dolly won't understand anything either, and I have nothing to tell her. It would only be interesting to see Kitty, and show her how I despise everyone and everything, and how it makes no difference to me now." Dolly came with the letter. Anna read it and silently handed it back. "I know all that," she said, "and it doesn't interest me in the least." "But why? On the contrary, I'm hopeful," said Dolly, looking at Anna with curiosity. She had never seen her in such a strange, irritated state. "When are you leaving?" she asked. Anna looked straight ahead with narrowed eyes and did not answer her. "So, is Kitty hiding from me?" she said, looking towards the door and blushing. "Oh, what nonsense! She's nursing, and it's not going well, so I advised her—" "She's very glad. She'll come at once," Dolly said awkwardly, not knowing how to tell an untruth. "And here she is." Learning that Anna was there, Kitty did not want to come out, but Dolly persuaded her to. Gathering her strength, Kitty came out and, blushing, went to her and held out her hand. "I'm very glad," she said in a trembling voice. Kitty was confused by the struggle going on inside her between animosity towards this bad woman and the wish to be lenient with her. But as soon as she saw Anna's beautiful, sympathetic face, all her animosity disappeared at once. "I wouldn't have been surprised if you didn't want to meet me. I've grown used to everything. You've been ill?" "Yes, you've changed," said Anna. Kitty felt that Anna was looking at her with animosity. She explained the animosity by the awkward position that Anna, who had once patronized her, now felt herself to be in, and she felt sorry for her. They talked about her illness, about the baby, about Stiva, but obviously nothing interested Anna. "I came to say goodbye to you," she said, getting up. When are you leaving? But Anna, again without answering, turned to Kitty. Yes, I'm very glad to have seen you, she said with a smile. I've heard so much about you from all sides, even from your husband. He visited me and liked him very much, she added, obviously with ill intent. Where is he? He went to the country, Kitty said, blushing. Be sure to give him my regards. I'll be sure to, Kitty naively repeated, looking into her eyes with compassion. Farewell then, Dolly. And having kissed Dolly and shaking Kitty's hand, Anna hastily went out. The same as always, and just as attractive. Such a handsome woman, said Kitty, when she was alone with her sister. But there's something pathetic about her, terribly pathetic. No, today there was something peculiar about her, said Dolly. When I saw her off in the front hall, I thought she was going to cry. If you enjoy this format, please leave a like and subscribe and return tomorrow for the next chapter.